Check, check, mic check. Check, check, mic check. Welcome to Podcast Envy. I'm your podcast boss, Andrea Klunder, and today we are celebrating Halloween, my favorite holiday of the year. And in honor of the Halloween season, I'm serving up advice from our spooky supernatural friends over on LinkedIn. Are you on LinkedIn? Are you following me? Creepy. No, really, I want you to follow me. Look me up on LinkedIn, Andrea Klunder, and if you send a connection request, be sure to include a message letting me know that you are a listener of Podcast Envy. Otherwise, I will not return your request. It's just the way I am. So today, this episode is special for Halloween, and it originally appeared in print, digital print, over on LinkedIn, where there are a whole bunch of other articles all designed to help you master the craft of podcasting in your own very special, unique way, because that is what I help people do. But before we get into the juicy content of the article, you have a few days left. If you are listening to this episode in the month of October, or maybe like November 1 or 2, and then I'll probably cut it off after that. But you have a few days left to get my 3-card tarot spread to make your podcast plan for 2019. It's free. All you have to do is go to thecreativeimposter.com/podcast tarot. That's TAROT. Or click the link in the show notes description for this podcast. Drop your email and I will send you the details on how to do your own reading. Or if you'd like me to do one for you, again, totally free, just because I love Halloween. Fill out a short questionnaire on Google, and I'm happy to pull 3 cards and interpret them for you. Once again, click the link in the show notes or head over to thecreativeimposter.com/podcast tarot. Okay, y'all, are you ready? Boo! This episode is Don't Ghost Your Podcast Listeners. Ghosting. When a person cuts off all communication with their friends or the person they're dating with 0 warning or notice beforehand. You'll mostly see them avoiding friends' phone calls, social media, and avoiding them in public. Imagine this. You happily discover this new podcast, and the first few episodes have you feeling hopeful. You can actually see the promise and the potential for the future of this show. As the weeks go on, you feel more and more like you really know the host. You're even starting to trust them. Before long, you share the podcast with your friends, hoping they'll like it too. And then suddenly, you realize it's been weeks since you've gotten a new episode in your queue. You check your app, make sure you're still subscribed. You look on social. Where are they? You go back and replay the latest episode. Did you miss something? A sign? You tweet them. Crickets. Time goes by. Silence. You feel lost. Betrayed. What could have happened? You hope they're okay. I mean, it was going so well. The only way they could disappear like this is if they were dead in a ditch somewhere, right? Do not do this to your listeners. I know. Sometimes podcasting is frustrating. It's a lot more work and takes more time than anyone ever lets on in the beginning. And there's the whole downloads thing. Apple is not the promised land of instant subscribers and immediate crowd of podcast fans. Your show may not be the overnight success you imagined it would be. And as the weeks and months go on, you find yourself getting less and less excited to go into a closet with your microphone or shell out for recording studio time if you should be so lucky to record. Maybe it's been ages since you got a review, a 5-star rating, an email from a listener, or geez, at this rate, even some hearts on your audiograms on Insta. But trust me, your listeners are out there and they need you. Too many scary ghosts. How about some podcast angels? Today's podcast angel is me. Whether you are thinking about starting your own podcast in 2019, or you already have a podcast and you are looking for ways to amplify your voice and make a profound impact, I have a group for you. The next Podcast Envy launch pod for new podcasters will be starting the end of January 2019, and right now you can get the full scoop over at thecreativeimpastor.com/launch pod envy. Again, that's thecreativeimpastor.com/launch pod envy. Linked, of course, in the show notes, in the description for this episode, in whatever app you're using. And if you are a current podcaster who just feels like you're constantly sitting in a closet surrounded by all your favorite clothes in the dark, podcasting by yourself, well, I mean, maybe that's where you podcast. I don't know. But if you feel like you could use some more connection, some direction, some support, some fresh ideas, some other podcasting people who get it and who are going to back you up, as well as open office hours with me, your podcast boss, I promise to go easy on you in the beginning. You can be part of my very, 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 very first Podcast Envy VIP circle. Find out more and be a founding member who actually gets to shape the future of the VIP circle over at thecreativeimpastor.com/grow together. Doesn't that sound nice? Don't delay. 2019 will be here before you know it. So before you give up completely, here are a few things you can try. 1, consider your why. Remember why you started podcasting in the first place. Assess what you're personally getting out of podcasting with or without large numbers. And then make a judgment call. Is it worth it? 2, if you're feeling overwhelmed, how often are you releasing episodes? Could you scale back? Or could you make less work for yourself? Maybe outsourcing something like editing or doing less detailed show notes. 3, if you're getting bored, can you switch it up a bit? Invite some guests if you don't usually. Do some solo shows if you usually have interviews. Do a deep dive into a mini series in a topic that feels current and interesting to you. 4, remember, it just takes time to build your show. So much time, especially if you didn't start with a huge following. Plus, numbers are subjective. I don't know what your numbers are, but you might be surprised about how intimate the average listening audience is by comparison. Most people who share their stats online and in social media groups and forums have freakishly high numbers that don't represent the full picture of indie podcasters. And if you're still over it, could you take a break and see if you miss it? And if you do, then come back in a month or maybe 2 months. Caveat, if you do this, be sure to communicate with your listeners. Announce it. Be honest about your intentions and let them know how to stay connected with you in the meantime. Like, will you still be posting on Facebook or in your email newsletter? And when all else fails and you're truly done with podcasting, say a proper goodbye. It doesn't have to be long, drawn out, and dramatic, unless that's your style. It doesn't have to be apologetic or self-deprecating, unless that's your style. Just a simple, heartfelt, honest ending to give your loyal listeners some closure. Let them know that you appreciate them and the time they've spent listening to your show. Maybe even recommend some other shows you think they might like to check out if that feels right to you. And as I said before, tell them how to stay connected to you, unless you are going totally off the grid and then, well, the farewell will do. Believe me, no one likes to be ghosted. To this day, I will never understand why it happens so much in the online dating world. But that is an article perhaps for another time. For now, treat your audience with the respect they deserve, and it will leave a lasting impression on them that matters. This has been a special Halloween episode of Podcast Envy. Don't forget to pick up your 3-card tarot spread for your podcast plan. And hey, there's another holiday coming up. It's called Thanksgiving. And I want to invite you to participate in a little social media experiment that I am conducting. If you are a podcaster or a podcast listener, and mind you, I know that you are at least one of those two things, you qualify to participate. We know that podcasting is amazing, and listening to podcasts is even more amazing. So why don't you show a little gratitude for the medium? Here are a few ways that you can participate. One, if you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Podcast Envy, check out the contact page at thecreativeimposter.com. You can send me an email there or leave me a short voicemail about 1.5 minutes and tell me your story of why you are grateful for podcasts, either a podcast that you listen to or as a podcast maker, why you are grateful for podcasting in general. If that 1.5 minute time limit is stressing you out and you want to just record audio in the comfort of your own time and space, send me a DM on Instagram or Facebook, and I will give you the details of where to send your WAV file or MP3 audio track. Even then, try to keep it around 3 minutes or less. Finally, post some gratitude for your favorite podcasts or for podcasting in general in a visual way over on Instagram. Include the hashtag podcast gratitude, and be sure to tag me at Andrea Klunder so that I see it. Instructions for this project, of course, are in the show notes description for this episode in the app you are using to listen. And of course, at thecreativeimposter.com/034 for this episode, number 34. And finally, if you want more podcasting advice like this one, come follow me on LinkedIn. There's a new video and a new article waiting just for you every single week. Podcast Envy is produced by your podcast boss, Andrea Klunder. That's me. The Podcast Envy theme music is by Valentin Sosnitsky, courtesy of the Free Sound Project at freesound.org, and our podcast Angel music is by Benjamin Mastropolito, also on freesound.org as Lemon Cream. All music is licensed under the Creative Commons. Our episodes are mixed by Edwin Ruiz, and hey, if you want your show to sound as good as ours, hire us. Put the magic audio mojo of the Creative Imposter Studios to work for you. Thanks so much for listening, and here's to making your podcast the envy of everyone else.